Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why Tom Brady has every right to be frustrated with the Patriots.
And I'm Cowherd, and I'll tell you why we should celebrate Chris Paul, or as I like to call him, the anti-Russell Westbrook. Speak for yourself starts now. I've been waiting to say
Can't
that
you just praise Chris Paul? Why do you got to bring Westbrook into it? All right, hello and welcome. We're joined today by NBA champion Caron Butler and Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard. Let's start with the Warriors, who blew out the Pelicans last night, and will now move on to the Western Conference Finals, where they'll face James Harden, Chris Paul, and the Rockets, fresh off their own series win over the Jazz. The revamped Rockets have been gearing up for this matchup all year, and the Warriors know it, just ask Draymond Green.
You know, they have made it known that their team is built to beat us. You know, kind of their, like you said, their obsession or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it is what it is. But like I said before, you know, all that stuff is cool. You can build your team. Obviously, you want to build your team to beat the defending champs because that's usually how you got to go to get a championship, the way you got to go. So, all understandable. That stuff has been said for about a year now. It's time to play.
All right, without question, these were the two best teams in the NBA all year. And while the Warriors have the shooting edge, the Rockets won the season series 2-1. Cowherd, do the Rockets have any chance against the Warriors?
I really don't think they do. Listen, we have a history. When dynasties, Warriors, face really, really good teams, Rockets, this is what happens. It's a 5 or 6 game series to the dynasty. Utah Jazz were a really good team. They had an MVP too, Karl Malone. They were the #1 seed, and then they faced a sick Bulls team. They matched up well with the Bulls, but in the end, Chicago in the biggest games in that series always prevailed.
Who's Michael Jordan for the Warriors? I don't see a Michael Jordan on the Warriors.
Steph.
I don't see a Michael Jordan on the Warriors. You see a Michael Jordan on the Warriors? The Michael Jordan of this era plays in Cleveland.
Okay, but the #2 on Golden State is better than their two, Steph or Durant. The #3 on Golden State, Clay, is better than their 3, Kukoc.
What about the entirety of the team? They've played 3 times this year. When the Rockets were at full strength, they beat them twice. Look, man, where's Steph Curry going to hide defensively in this series? There's no place for him to hide this series. This is a 7-game series.
Oh, come on.
This is a 7-game series that, look, I would favor Golden State, but the Rockets can win this series.
Oh, no.
I'll give them a chance. I'll give them a 25% chance.
That's not much of one.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as close as you're saying, but yeah, there are things to like about the Rockets. The interesting thing, and you saw it with Draymond Green's comments, I talked to somebody in Golden State the other day, and they're like, they can't wait to get Houston. You can see it with Dray. Like, they're like, and he said, because they've been talking so much trash, Clint Capella, we're the better team, all the stuff they've been saying.
Oh.
I think you might see Golden State play better than ever in this series. And if that's the case, it could be a quick series. But I like the Rockets, and with three-point shooting, anything can happen, and we know they put up a ton of threes, so I'll give them a shot.
I like the Rockets also, but I don't like them in this series to win. I say 6. The Warriors win in 6. And, you know, we referred back to the regular season where we talked about LeBron being so dominant. That's the same thing we talked about with the Toronto Raptors. They was dominant in the regular season. They played it extremely well. But when the postseason came,
you just compared Toronto to Houston. You compared Houston
we're talking
to
about teams being dominant in the regular season, and then all of a sudden you go to another season, which is the postseason. It's a different beast. It's a different animal. Every possession matters. It's different.
Who's the Chris Paul, James Harden in Toronto? It's not a fair comparison.
But here's the thing, too. Chris Paul has been spectacular these last 3 games. James Harden hasn't. If you look at the playoffs, they've had a couple games where they've both been at their peak. But for the most part, it's been Harden was great, Paul was so-so. Paul was great, Harden was so-so. They both going to have to be at their peak performance every night.
Harden was sick last night.
Play the way he played last night for 5 games in this series in order for them to be special.
Some of Houston really, not a break because they earned it, but they faced Minnesota in the opening series. That's the team that doesn't match up in the West at all against Houston. They don't shoot threes.
Who else in the West was going to beat them?
Well, no. And so that was their first matchup, and they walked through them. Well, then they got another great matchup Utah's a middle-of-the-pack three-point
So San
shooting
Antonio
team.
would have beat him in the second
Well,
round.
let me ask
Other
you
than
this.
Golden State, who?
Neither Kawhi Leonard.
I think Anthony Davis could have been a pain for them. I think Greg Popovich. Houston got really ideal matchups from a bad three-point shooting team and a team led by a rookie against Harden and Paul, two veterans. It's all worked out well for Houston.
Capella, Harden, Paul. 50-5 when all three take the court this season. But let's just ignore all of that, and they have no shot.
I wonder what the record is for the death lineup.
It ain't 50-5.
It's championships.
Yeah, 2-0 when they start. Listen, you would acknowledge the NBA's always been about 2 seasons. You could argue 3. The officials even officiate games differently now. Let's say the officials say, we're gonna let, and they do this when you get to the conference finals and the finals. They because officials don't want to decide games. They let you be more physical. Who's got the more physical roster? I got a Draymond Green. Zaza
That's
Pachulia.
it. That's as
That's
far as
pretty
you're going to
close.
go with
Yeah,
it.
that's
as
pretty
far.
close.
I got Draymond Green. That's as far as you go.
Because
Steph Curry,
Capella, PJ Tucker's physical.
all them light-skinned suburban brothers. Like, hey, you talking about a physical side.
Hey, watch it. Watch it now. We can
Man, hey, hold on. I consider myself light-skinned too, man. Hold up.
This time of year brings us 2 things, graduations and Father's Day, and the gifts that go along with them. Before you buy Dad another tie or that grad a balloon that will probably float away, ask yourself this. Does my dad or grad like wings or sports, or better yet, both? If the answer is yes, then get them a Buffalo Wild Wings gift card. Right now, if you purchase $30 worth or more in-store or online, they'll give you a $5 bonus to keep for yourself. That's a gift that gives back. How generous of you. Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports. Terms and conditions apply.
The Celtics will look to close out the series with the Sixers tonight. It's actually been a really fun series. Despite Boston's 3-1 series lead and a clear edge with Brad Stevens on the sidelines, Ben Simmons and the young Sixers actually opened up as slight favorites in tonight's game. Whitlock, you expect Boston to close out the Sixers tonight?
No, I don't. This is a very close series.
It is.
That, got off to a 3-0 start, but the Sixers had leads and nice leads in those games, and you could argue better team just didn't know how to finish, didn't know how to close out in the fourth quarter. I think the Sixers win tonight. I still think Boston's going to win the series. Brad Stevens is that good, but this is a 6 or 7 game series. On paper, that's what we thought coming in. I still believe that Boston just had the ball fall their way the first 3 games.
Okay, as a parent, the younger your kids are, the worse they are away from home. You go on a road trip, they're just problems. Kids are good at home. Okay, Philly's young and Boston's young. Let's be honest about it. Tatum's young, Jalen's young, Rozier's young. Okay, you got 2 young teams. You notice how much better both are at home? I mean, Boston couldn't beat Milwaukee on the road, yet they're 6-0 at home. When I see 2 young teams, this is what I see. Taking my kids on a road trip. Woo! Philly's a different team on the road, and Boston's a different team at home. Situationally, I'll take the Celtics tonight.
I hope and pray you're right, because I'd love this to be an interesting series. And I wanted Philly to win. I thought Philly was going to win going in. And they can argue they should be up 3-1. Because they were up, I think, 22 in game in Boston.
Right.
Up 22. Definitely should have won game 3. And we saw what happened in game 4. I think a key for Philly is how they feel inside. Like, Karan, as a player, if you're down 3-1, do you really think you can come back and win, or 3-0? Or do you just, you don't really think you have a chance? Were they just playing for pride in game 4, not to get swept by another young team? Or if they really believe we're the better team, we can beat them, then I think they have a good shot of extending this.
I think it's all about mentality, what you touched on, Chris, and having the right disposition coming into that game on the road. However, I think Brad Stevens does an excellent job of just, making the adjustments on the fly. And that's why I give Boston the edge, pulling this thing out at home.
Here's what I think both of y'all made great points, but I don't think anyone's giving Brett Brown any credit for going with the T.J. McConnell move and taking Ben Simmons off the ball. It seems like they've made an adjustment that worked, and maybe they will continue.
I agree. The thing is, I think Stevens will be ready for that this time. Like T.J. McConnell, we know he's obviously not a great player, but he caught him off guard, and it threw Boston off guard. I think tonight Stevens and the Celtics will be ready for that, and McConnell won't be nearly.
Playoff series are chess matches. I do think Boston has more pieces. They have a little bit more viability. I think Philly is what they are. Very good defensively, long, athletic. They're not a great shooting team. Boston has moments where they are very good defensively, incredibly efficient shooting the basketball, great situationally. They've got second and third gears. I still contend that Philadelphia is an athletic wing shooter away from really being special. They're good. I don't think they're very good.
Embiid, Simmons, their ceilings are the highest in this series. And so all they have to do is reach their highs tonight in terms of performance and playing smart. And I think it's a possibility. You can mature in 2, 3, 4 days, 2, 3, 4 games, and figure out what playoff basketball is about. And I think that gets them at least one more victory.
I totally agree. You can mature on the fly, but one thing you cannot develop is a jump shot. You cannot develop a jump shot from game to game or in the series. That takes summer of breaking it down and building it back up.
Decade it might take for.
By the way, Sixers brought in a mentalist to talk to the team in the last 24 hours. I don't know this officially, but I think every team that brought in a mentalist in the series lost. I'm going to go with that. Welcome back, Caron Butler, Chris Broussard. Let's move to a couple of Hall of Famers. Charles Barkley and Shaq, whose antics on TNT, usually for a good laugh. We like them. But last night, things got a little uncomfortable during a heated exchange about Dwane Casey's decision to bench the Raptors star, DeMar DeRozan.
He's got to repair his relationship with DeMar DeRozan.
No, he don't.
Yes, he does.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, you have to, because listen, if your best player, you bench your best player.
Why was he benched?
That's not the point.
It is the point.
You don't disrespect your best player.
Listen.
If you don't have a great relationship with your best player, you're never going to win.
That's not true.
He did not.
That's not true.
He did not. Well, in
That's
your
not
opinion.
true.
No, just because you say something, it's just
That's
your
not
opinion.
true.
No, it's not true.
Me and Pat Riley never saw eye to eye, and what happened to my man win. So it's not true what you're saying.
Well,
it's not true what you're saying.
It's not true.
I'm just letting you know what you did.
Was the man on that team?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Even start.
It doesn't matter. I was a role player. You're right, but you know what?
That's my point. That's my point. I'm saying with your best player.
You don't know what you're talking about when it comes to championship.
I'm just telling you something.
Stop babying
Wayne
these
carried
players.
you to that championship. No matter how much you scream, you loud, that does not make you right.
Listen.
You're wrong in the city.
And that's why you ain't win, because you was a baby. Stop babying these players.
I'm not babying no players.
He don't play. He don't play. He got to sit his ass down. Period.
He got to repair his.
He ain't got to repair nothing. He got to stop babying the players. You got baby. That's why you ain't win.
He got to. I didn't have Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant carry me up and down the court.
So why you in the Hall of Fame?
Because
I got 3 Finals MVP, Chuck.
Because you
Google me, Chuck.
Everybody
Google me, Chuck. You see that? Google me.
Well, obviously, that got a little personal, and these guys clearly disagree about how coaches should treat star players. Whitlock, whose side are you on, Barkley or Shaq?
I think Shaq was right in terms of don't baby DeMar DeRozan, don't baby these players. I think Shaq was right in saying, Chuck, you may have got babied a little bit. Where Shaq is wrong is, and if I were Barkley in that moment, I would have said, hey, man, if I was 7'2", they wouldn't have enough fingers to cover all the championship rings I had. And if I was 7'2", Kobe Bryant would have never run me out of L.A. And so I think Shaquille O'Neal had a great season. Great career. But Barkley, the greatest 6'4" basketball player we've ever seen, ever. 6'4". This is a game that favors height. And so I get Shaq's point and all that, but if Barkley was his size, he'd have 10 rings.
Here's why I side with Charles Barkley. First of all, there's very few elite anything. Lawyers, surgeons, basketball stars. The whole planet plays football at quarterback. High school, college, Division I, Division II, Division III, Canadian football, XFL, Euro, NFL. You got 6 guys who are great quarterbacks. When you get a star, there ain't many of them. Take care of them. Secondly, it's Toronto. This isn't like Miami losing a star of the Lakers. You're Toronto. You don't baby DeMar DeRozan? All right, bye-bye. Good luck, as you've said, getting another star in Toronto. So, A, Barkley's right. You take care of stars. This is the other thing is the NBA's always been a star-driven league. You
got a baby him.
Well, first of all, babying him is, well, what's babying him? Isn't that what Westbrook gets?
Yeah, and look how well it's working out there. Westbrook's your least favorite player. Now you're going to use him as the example? Give me a break.
It really depends on the temperament of the star. Greg Popovich could yell at Tim Duncan. There are other players, superstars, that wouldn't have taken it. I generally agree with Charles that you do have to have a good relationship with your best player. And I've had coaches tell me they would go up to their best player before practice. I'm going to go off on you today. It ain't nothing, but I'm going to go off on you today just for the other guys.
Not personal.
You know, yeah, so the other guys see you yelling at the best player, and then they get in line. But in this case, look, Dwane Casey did nothing wrong with DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan had 8 points, a negative 23 plus minus,
Yes.
and the bench players rallied them. And then on Tuesday, after they lost Game 4 and were swept, DeMar DeRozan said, I have nothing but respect for Dwane Casey, and all of my success I give to him. So Charles was wrong initially, and there's nothing to repair. Those two are fine.
I think they both made valid points. You know, you're talking about Chuck and, Shaq, but at the same time, you have to understand, you need somebody at the helm to protect you from yourself sometimes. And I think Coach Casey did an excellent job of protecting DeMar from himself. He wasn't playing up to par, and he was out there embarrassing himself and taking the hit, and he wasn't taking a ton of criticism. He put that on himself by pulling him, so now he's faced with the real questions. And then he can pivot that to the coach, not to the player. So I think that he was a shield for DeMar in that situation.
Listen,
I want to go back at you again on your whole, you got to baby stars. Bill Belichick's your favorite coach. Tom Brady can't stand him right now. Tom Brady's, I don't know if I'm appreciated or not. Bill Belichick ain't babying his star.
Popovich apologized essentially to LaMarcus Aldridge. Look, the NBA is a different culture. You don't, good Lord, one guy controls the whole NBA basically. And then there's one other team, LeBron and the Warriors. In the NFL, I mean,
if DeMar DeRozan was LeBron, baby. But DeMar DeRozan ain't LeBron.
In Canada?
He's a quarter of LeBron.
Oh, what time out? But in Canada?
What?
You don't get stars up to Canada.
But hold on, DeRozan is locked in. They just signed a long-term, extension, so he's locked in.
I will say this to you, though. If you create that monster, that beast, and when the problems outweigh the talent, you're going to have a bigger issue than you
I've been
ever
saying
dreamed
that
of.
about Westbrook for years.
Yeah, I know. You're all over the
That's
map.
not the case with Westbrook.
You're all over. I want to go back on my one last.
Well, I think you're bringing up Barkley. Shaq. I disagree. Look, Barkley, I agree. I've said he's arguably the best player ever, inch for inch. So I agree with you. But Charles was a lot like Shaq. Didn't
That's my point.
So I'm just saying, you can't say he would have had more rings than Shaq if he was that size. He had the game, but, he didn't want to defend. He didn't work as hard. They both were kind of like not the hardest workers in the world.
I got to be careful here.
Why?
Because
Say it with your chest.
I think
Say it with your chest.
I was mad a minute ago.
I think Charles gave more to the game than Shaq.
No.
Yes.
You can't say that.
Yes.
How?
Yeah.
Shaq won
Look at
at
Shaq.
the highest level.
No,
Charles
gave
didn't.
more.
Oh,
Shaq
you
is
mean
7'2". 7'2". That's uncoachable. That's a gift from God. You give it. You give it to me.
There are
two dudes that
exactly.
didn't live up
Thank
to.
you.
A lot of them.
There are a lot of guys that big.
If Barkley was 7'2", trust me, they'd be building monuments to him.
He only got to one finals. And again, I'm with you. He was a tremendous player, but I don't think you can say he gave more than Shaq.
You can't tell the story of basketball without either of those guys.
I agree.
Well, without Shaq, you can't. You might be able to without Charles.
Oh, no.
No. The story, how long is
Time
the
out.
story? I mean,
It's going to be as long as
You-
it has
you
to be.
call Shaq
You
is in
can't
there
edit
before
Charles
Charles.
Barkley out the
The
story
man
of
just
basketball.
called him the best player inch for inch, but now we're gonna write him out.
Arguably.
Now we're gonna write him out of the NBA story.
he didn't win a championship. He didn't win an MVP. Well, he was one-time MVP.
Yep.
I mean,
How many pages is that book?
he's saying, look, he was fantastic. But Shaq is, you mentioned Shaq before you mentioned Barkley.
Okay,
I'll say
yeah, but let's be honest. When Shaq went to the Lakers, that was bigger than any brand in America outside maybe the Cowboys. Now, it slipped some because the NBA is more global and you don't need cities as much. But Shaq had the benefit of, I don't know, the Laker brand and Pat Riley. Charles played in Philadelphia.
Which is Philadelphia was a great franchise.
Phil Jackson.
Oh, Pat Riley in Miami.
Yeah, Pat Riley in Miami, Phil Jackson, Laker brand. I mean, come on, Charles went to Phoenix. By the way, how's Phoenix mostly been for the last 50 years? They were good during him. They were good for a couple years with Nash.
Charles, look, I really think he's arguably the best player ever, inch for inch, but he was not Shaq. He just wasn't. And Philly, you poo-pooing Philly. Philly was a great franchise.
10 inches shorter is the whole difference between those two. That's it. 10 inches.
Well, okay,
That's
but you could say that about LeBron and Allen Iverson or something. I mean,
the game
the size.
favors the big dudes, and Shaq was favored. He didn't give more than Barkley, and so he can wave his ring around. I like Shaq a lot. I defended Shaq over Kobe the entire time, but don't wave your finger in front of Barkley like that. All right, welcome back. We're joined now by Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson and the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to New England, where a lot of ink has been spilled trying to explain what's behind Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski's cool attitude towards Bill Belichick this offseason. Now a guy who knows the team as well as anyone, former Pats executive Michael Lombardi, says he thinks the real reason is they want more money. And when you look at what Brady's making compared to guys like Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, and Case Keenum, Lombardi kind of has a point. Cowherd, should Brady be bothered by his contract?
Yeah, I mean, if you are the best in the world at something, and yet you are paid 16th best, it's not about the money. It's what it symbolizes. Money symbolizes respect. When Eric was the best back in the league, you can maybe talk yourself out of, well, I'm the second highest paid, but, you know, my contract's coming up in a year. If you're the 16th highest paid running back, you go home at night and you go to bed and you put your head in that pillow, you're thinking.
That was me. I was making $150,000. I was pissed. I wasn't just thinking.
Okay, you're thinking this organization doesn't respect me. And what you're really thinking is they take me for granted. And by the way, we heard Giselle in that documentary. That's sort of what Tom thinks.
I think he should be bothered, and it's most bothered by the fact that there was the Patriots way, and he bought all in, and he was the example of that. I'll take a little less so we can do more with the team. And then the head coach, the guy that preaches, let's do everything the Patriots way, whatever makes sense for the team, does what he did in the Super Bowl with Malcolm Butler, doesn't explain it, and so now that sets off a cancer in the whole team. And so now Tom Brady's like, oh, you're different, so I get to be different now. And I've been satisfied not being the highest paid player when I'm the best player, I'm the MVP, and I've got 5 Super Bowls. You've changed, I get to change. Give me my money.
I agree with that. I think that when they did the Malcolm Butler thing, I think it kind of changed everything. Look, Tom Brady's wife made $30 million last year.
Yeah.
He made, 21? You know, say the endorsements, probably made 80. It's not about the money, but it become, like you said, I'm the best player, but I'm being paid like the 16th best player.
Case Keenum. You're getting paid less than Case.
I do agree with that. Now, in my case, I was making $150,000. If I was making $21 million, I would be like, okay, I'm cool. But if I had a wife making $30 million, I'd be like, hey, no problem. And I'm winning Super Bowl rings.
But, as you said, it's not about the money. Money symbolizes something.
It depends on how much money you're making. It depends on how much money you're making now.
I don't think it does. I don't think it does matter how much you make. It's still about a stack of money and reading in the paper, I'm getting paid less than Case Keenum? Is that what you think about me?
Case Keenum's actually making a little less than him, but around the same.
Guys, I don't know how to say this without being mean. They have generational wealth, as you said, $30 million. Their net worth is $500 million. Why would Tom Brady care if Case Keenum is in his stratosphere? All he has to say is, I got 5 rings. How am I going to get to the 6th? If I take a little less money, can we get another guy in free agency? I cannot imagine why Tom Brady would care what Case Keenum's making versus what he's making.
Did you see the Met Gala he was at this week?
I did, yeah.
If you're going to dress like that, you got to keep up. That jacket costs a lot of money.
Hey, when your wife got a gold dress on, you got to have some gold on somewhere.
No, listen again.
And the wife's in the front.
Well, everybody thinks this. In life, everybody thinks what I'm about to say. Hey, man, if I just had blank, I wouldn't worry about money. And then everybody gets blank and goes, well, my neighbor's got a Lexus, I don't have a Lexus. It's not about money, it's what it symbolizes. And Tom's just saying, time out. Minnesota just emptied the Brinks truck on Kirk Cousins. I'm carrying this
I'm with
franchise.
Jason. I believe in Jason.
Let me add this one, Eric.
McIntyre.
That Jason
This guy
McIntyre.
right here. Hey,
I like what you
let me
said too. I
unload
agree with both,
this.
but the last thing I believe in him.
We worked with Michael Lombardi for a little while, okay? I sat next to him while he FaceTimed Josh McDaniels. He's in with that Belichick crowd. What if this isn't Bill Belichick saying, hey, Mike, I'm getting crushed over here, over Malcolm Butler. Can you float something about Tom Brady to take the shine off me and put the spotlight on Tom? What if this isn't just Patriot guys looking out for one another?
Okay.
Eric, you've been in some front.
But tell me this.
You know, in the
Tell me
front
this.
office, they do some shady things.
But
Yes,
tell
they
me,
do.
Tell me this, McIntyre. I don't think this puts Tom in a bad light. I don't think this puts.
Painting a 41-year-old guy as money hungry.
But you know, when they asked him do you think the organization, you know, what was the question? You think the organization appreciates you? And he said, I take the fifth. I mean, that says something. The organization, not the organization.
Let me ask you this, though. This is interesting, what McIntyre said. So why did this story break yesterday? What happened the day before? Brady looked oddly wealthy. So Brady goes out with his supermodel wife. He's never looked wealthier than that picture. Later that day, Belichick seizes a moment. I'm going to make this about money, and people are going to go, come on, Brady, you're hanging out.
Jeez.
I'm just saying, you don't think it...
No. I mean, if you look at that picture and go, oh, he looks wealthy.
You don't think he looks wealthy there?
I thought he looked silly.
He looks like a
I thought he looked like he
count of
was in a figure skating
This is
outfit.
how
He looked
people
silly.
in Germany that own castles dress.
No. He looks like he allowed his wife to put him in a clown suit.
There you go.
Because he's so in love with her.
Well, she got gold. He got to have gold on too.
I'm not knocking either one of them, but again,
That's
when
how-
you fall in that kind of love, your wife or your spouse can talk you into things.
That's how rich people dress at galas.
Come on, Jason.
Yeah, look who was around
Jason,
them.
you ain't got you didn't have one of them back in the day. Come on, now with a hat. Come on now. Come on, you know you had one of them outfits.
So listen, I just think it goes back to appreciation. How do you express appreciation? If you can't get it verbally from the head coach, you can get it every 2 weeks in that direct deposit they put in your bank account. And so the difference between 20 million and 30 or 35 million, what he's worth, 10, 15 million bucks, I don't care who you are. You can have all the money that Bill Gates has. And I'll take that extra 15 million and give it to me. I know what to do with that.
I made 150, so can I just get $1 million?
To the Saints, who just got some bad news with the NFL denying running back Mark Ingram's appeal of his 4-game suspension for violating league policy on performance-enhancing substances. Ingram's coming off his best year of his career. He was a crucial part of the Saints' revitalized running game alongside Alvin Kamara. Is this a big deal to you?
Yeah, because I don't think Alvin Kamara is an every down back. And so they're going to have to use him more than what they anticipated. And I think it's a big deal because Mark Ingram was having a decent NFL career. And then last year, he has career best and he becomes a star, a superstar basically. And you have to ask the question, was it Mark Ingram or was it the PEDs? And so, yeah, I think this is a big deal. I think it puts them in a jam for the first 4 weeks of the season, and it calls into question the performance that Mark Ingram had last year.
Philadelphia and New England got to the Super Bowl, and they're running back by committee organizations. And Philadelphia is favored and New England to get back to the Super Bowl, and they are running back by committee organizations. I don't think running backs in the NFL are currently worth, if you look in Vegas, they're not worth a point. So I think that
hurts the committee, though. The committee is Kamara and Ingram. They're breaking up their committee.
But what I'm saying is he'll be back by week 5. They've got other running backs. I think this is a trend in the NFL. People are going away from the Todd Gurley, Adrian Peterson, build around. It's kind of a committee thing now in the NFL.
It's all about the quarterback. It's all about the quarterback is what it comes down to. And yeah, I agree. I think this hurts some Saints a little bit. If I'm Alvin Kamara, I'm like, hey, this is my opportunity. I can show you I can be an every down back. And one thing about the National Football League, you may fool us the first year, but we're going to catch up to you the second year. So we will get a chance to see if he can do that. And also, this came at the end of the season, you know, this PED. At the end of the season, not during the beginning, at the end of the season. So, you know, he's 28 years old, finna be 29 years old. You know,
He's carries at Alabama.
He's never been that guy, even at New Orleans. He's never been comfortable. They drafted Alvin Kamara. They drafted. They signed AP. I mean, they had a plethora of backs. He's never been like, okay, I'm the running back here. I don't worry about my job. Yeah, he can come and run sometime, but he's never had that comfort zone. So did he probably try something? It's possible. You know, you never want to say, but, you know, if they tell you, don't take this, and you make it, don't take that. I mean, you don't get a chance to do it later.
So, Colin, we're all against you here. You talk on your radio show about how loaded the NFC is.
Right.
Okay, you can't open this season 2-2 or 1-3. Not with the Eagles, the Vikings, Aaron Rodgers is back. The 49ers will be in contention. If they come out of the gate slow, because Alvin Kamara is a 5'10", 215-pound guy, he's not going to carry 20 times a game. He's not a bell cow. And the other stat is Drew Brees threw his fewest passes in the last 9 years last season. He's coming back at, I believe, 39 because he can hand it off more. He can't do that the first 4 games. He's going to have to win through the air. I think this is a dangerous situation in New Orleans. I'm concerned about their playoff hopes. A little early, but we convince him?
We think these, these go-to running backs. That's why I wouldn't have taken Saquon Barkley at number 2.
Hey, look
I
out,
would have
man.
traded down and
running backs.
Running backs are worth nothing.
I'm telling you, they ain't worth nothing. They should just put them out there and don't even pay them. Just let them come in sometime.
Division in the NFL? Falcons, Panthers?
No, God.
3 playoff teams last year.
No, they'll slow down. NFC West, first of all, there's a lot of good divisions except for the AFC East. They're all pretty good except for that one. Welcome back, Caron Butler, J-Mac here. Let's return to the NBA where Chris Paul, my guy, huge game last night, 40 points, 10 assists, Rockets series clinching win over the Jazz. Chris Paul will now move on to the conference finals for the first time in his 13-year career and was asked after the game about finally getting over the hump.
What does it mean to you to not only be in the Western Conference Finals for the first time, but to have had your career best playoff game, score the most points you've ever had in a playoff game tonight to do it?
I don't know. I mean, is that what you play for? You know what I mean? For us, it was just, like we say before every game, like they were in the way, so we was just trying to get another win.
Okay, Chris has by far played the most playoff games before reaching conference finals, and he's taken his fair share of criticism for his postseason failures. Whitlock did last night silence his critics.
No, I think last night what he did was tremendous, particularly the 0 turnovers, and it's the kind of performance that if he makes it to the NBA Finals or wins an NBA Finals, we'll talk about, that clinching game that he had against Utah. But if they don't advance to the finals, the monkey's still on his back.
Oh, come on. First of all, he goes to New Orleans. They set a regular season win record. He goes to the Clippers, who were dysfunctional. They set a regular season win record. He goes to Houston. They set a regular season win record. Everywhere he's gone, he's won. He had to overcome the dysfunction of Blake Griffin and the Clippers. They don't even have the same owner anymore. Blake's out of town. DeAndre couldn't shoot. He's a flake who was done in Dallas, and then he came back. And listen, what the guy did in Los Angeles, no matter how great you are in any business, you cannot overcome utter dysfunction. Listen, since he left the Clippers and Blake Griffin, how's the divorce gone? Because Chris is doing great. Blake, the Clippers were better without Blake. They were sub 500 with him in Detroit. Got his coach fired. I mean, I feel like Chris Paul last night validated, hey, I'm finally with grown-ups. I'm finally with non-dysfunctional people, and look what I do. I'm the star of the ball.
A Game 5 win at home as a double-digit favorite against Raul Neto and Royce O'Neal or whatever his name is, and the former D-leaguer, that's going to silence the critics, Whitlock? Are you kidding me? I mean, this is what social media has done to us. No, I'm saying you're on my side.
You're the closest thing to him.
I'm just firing on all cylinders. Listen, this is what social media has done. We are becoming prisoners of the moment. It happens to me sometimes, but we're supposed to believe a Game 5 win in the second round means something to his legacy. I heard somebody go on your show today and say, now he's going to be the 3rd best all point guard in NBA history. I'm like, what? This stuff's blowing my mind.
It's not just about winning this game. They had 10 more wins. He was the best player on the floor. They won 2 series effortlessly.
Colin,
they're favored in Game 1 against the Warriors.
Chris Paul said it already in his press conference. He didn't use these words, but he wants to be the Isaiah Thomas of this generation. He's the president of the Players Association. He's known as one of the smartest players in the league. You got to have titles to back that up. That's his goal, the standards he's setting. It's titles or bust. He knows he needs a title. He's momentarily silenced the critics, but but he hasn't achieved his goal.
I think he's a future Hall of Famer no matter what.
Of course.
And I don't think this series pretty much changed the trajectory of what his career was going to be, you know, when we tell the story of basketball or talk about his legacy. But what I do feel is that now he's in a position where he made a huge gamble. He left the Clippers. He went to a coach and an organization that believed that they was on par to, you know, surpass the Warriors, and they did everything possible to get the right personnel on that team. And now he has his best chance to create it and write his own history. But he will have to perform like he performed last night, 5 to 6 games in the series.
Isn't it remarkable? He's the anti-Westbrook. Westbrook is the Bitcoin. He's cryptocurrency. Every day it's a different story. I'm a millionaire, I gotta sell my house. Chris Paul doesn't jump, not real flashy, 9% returns. To me, when I look at the love and the enabling of Westbrook, and then at the constant criticism of Chris Paul, it makes me wonder who's
You're
watching.
a magician.
This is crazy.
You need a hat because you can pull Westbrook out of a hat at any time and inject him into any conversation. He's a magician. He's a freaking magician. You are the David Copperfield of Sports Talk TV. Westbrook has nothing to do with this. Did Chris Paul silence his critics?
Colin, look.
No,
It's Chris.
You guys,
No.
How
did you get hold of Westbrook?
This show for 2.5 years, we defend Westbrook. Why has the referendum been set on Chris Paul? Chris Paul's been
referendum.
What's he done?
You're
He's
over
won
there
a bunch of regular season games.
What has Westbrook
Whoop-de-damn
done?
do. Well, I
Won
don't
a bunch
like
of
Westbrook.
regular
I don't
season
think he's
games.
very
He won
good.
MVP, won the
Oh, God.
he went to the
So did Derrick
finals.
Rose.
He went to, like, what, 3-4 Western Conference Finals?
Look, my point isn't, I'm not dumping on Chris Paul. I'm holding Chris Paul to the standards Chris Paul holds himself to.
Absolutely.
And his talents set. Chris Paul, to me, is a great player who needs to prove it in the postseason. He's had some bad postseason performances. It's great that he did that last night. But for Chris Paul should be this generation's Isaiah Thomas. He needs to get it done here against a great Golden State team. Isaiah Thomas, if you understand him and his career, he took out Michael Jordan.
Yes.
He took out Magic Johnson. He took out Larry Bird. That's what Chris Paul has an opportunity to do. Take out KD and Steph Curry. That's how you silence your critics and make your reputation.
And then go through your best friend or one of your
Yes.
best friends in LeBron James.
Isaiah did it to Magic.
Chris Paul ain't pulling
One of us likes Bitcoin, the other one likes a stable CD.
To Cleveland, where reportedly the Cavaliers will not discipline Rodney Hood for declining to enter the game when Ty Lue tried to sub him in during the fourth quarter of Monday's blowout over Toronto. Reportedly, Hood apologized to GM Kobe Altman and plans to apologize to his teammates and coaches in person. Cowherd, do you think this Rodney Hood fiasco will be a distraction at all?
I don't. They overcame Khloe Kardashian. Their coach had a health scare. They rebooted the roster. LeBron lives in a 24/7 tunnel of distraction. And some of it I think he creates. And I love LeBron, but his cryptic messages, to me, it's a deck chair off a boat.
It's a really bad look for Rodney Hood, what he did here, because I don't think it'll be a distraction. But when LeBron James decides to go all in, I just don't understand how you don't follow in behind. And so once LeBron James starts buying suits for everybody to wear on the road and starts putting 40 on everybody and playing at both ends of the court and selling popcorn at halftime, Rodney Hood is supposed to be, anybody on that roster should be satisfied with whatever they get. Tristan Thompson got publicly humiliated for 2 or 3 games and never got off the bench, and he's helped them win a championship. And Rodney Hood is throwing a tantrum because they're trying to give him some mop-up minutes. Maybe he makes a shot and gets himself going so he can be a factor. Horrible look for Rodney Hood.
This is a dude who was in line to make a lot of money this offseason, and he averaged 6 points a game against the Pacers in the first round. But as Cowherd said, they're impervious to distractions. Remember, the Tristan Thompson thing that you brought up, He did literally nothing for the first 6 games of the Pacers series. Double-double, followed by a double-double against Toronto. I mean, Rodney Hood's like the 7th guy, 8th guy off the bench. I don't think it matters. We're 4 or 5 days away from the Celtics series.
Listen, it should not matter, but I think if anything happens, if it happens, whatever it is, they're going to put that on him. He created himself. He put himself in great position to be the ultimate scapegoat.
Yeah.
Look, this is why, look, he started this, and this is a domino effect because of this guy didn't want to go in. Now these guys everybody's not all in.
So Kevin Love will sleep easy tonight. Finally, they're not going to blame me.
Woo!
Jeez.
Somebody else.
Ron, I do think you make a good point because what is carrying them right now is the tone LeBron has set, whatever it takes. And I'm all in. I'm committed. There have been people like me and Cowherd and just people around the country have spent all year speculating, where's LeBron going to go next? And LeBron has put a stake in the middle of the court like, I'm here now, 1,000%. And to have anybody go off note on that is a bit troubling, but I think they can handle it.
The first thing I thought of when it happened was Utah. When Utah gave Rodney Hood to the Cavs, we all were like, he's kind of a good player. Utah last night said, this is why we gave him up. We were at practice. We knew the odometer reading on the true Rodney Hood.
Yeah.
So they were just sitting around saying, I know something you don't know.
Well, I mean, listen, it's like they always say when you buy a used car. The only person that knows the car is the initial owner. So Utah knows Rodney Hood. They're at practice. They travel with him. I just thought they probably went, see, this is why we didn't buy into it.
Welcome back. Time for last call. Let's move to Kurt Warner, who said this week that he thought about trying to play this year and actually reached out to a coach this offseason before deciding to retire. Cowherd, would you want to see a 46-year-old Warner make a comeback?
No. Listen, my memories of Kurt Warner are really good. Like, I don't want to see him stumble out there and I remember his last game, didn't he get just decked? He literally got knocked physically out of the game.
I get it why he thought about it. Because, again, I grew up with Jeff George, friends with Jeff George. The guy, he's 50 years old now. I guarantee you in Jeff's mind, he can still sling it at an NFL level. And if he got enough pass protection, he feels like he can go win you a game.
Oh, I get that.
When you have that kind of arm talent, you've had that kind of success as a Kurt Warner, he'll be 60 years old. So, I got a few snaps left in me, but stay retired. All right, to Pittsburgh, where Big Ben has been throwing shade at Steelers rookie quarterback Mason Rudolph this past week. And now Rudolph appears to be throwing it back, saying that his favorite quarterback growing up was Peyton Manning. Cowherd, should Big Ben be offended?
No, but he heard it. I don't think you're offended by it, but I think there's a reason Mason Rudolph said it.
Yeah, I think he said it because Peyton Manning was his favorite quarterback growing up, and it's just an honest statement. I don't think it has anything to do with Big Ben. If I'm a kid growing up and I have and I'm a quarterback and I have a choice between idolizing Big Ben or Peyton Manning, with all the
and I work for the Steelers and I can say I didn't have one or I named Peyton, that's a burn.
It's Peyton Manning. it would be like someone.
Big Ben.
That's like Michael Jordan. Everybody idolized him.